Hello, my name is Katie Brindle and I am founder of the Hayo'u method. So today on my YouTube channel, I thought it would be quite an interesting story to tell anyone who's interested about my little story and how I've come to become a female founder of not one but 3 award-winning brands, of which I'm hugely proud. So if any women are watching this out there and thinking that they would like to change their life or create a brand or just get out there a bit more than what they're already doing and break the chains that they're in, then maybe my story will serve to help you. So here goes. So what happened to me? Well, way back when, I always call myself the runt of the litter. I came from a very high achieving family. My sister was very highly achieving, so was my father. My mother less so, probably because of the generation that she wasn't really allowed to, but she worked extremely hard to give me a good education. And eventually I was going to become an opera singer, which is what I absolutely loved. And then had this horrible car accident in my early 20s that absolutely just destroyed my voice, destroyed my shoulder. I had excruciating neck pain. I lost my vocation, my profession, my future. I was in extraordinary pain. I couldn't work, and basically my life had a bit of a collapse. And like so many people in the healthcare situation, you kind of go from pillar to post trying to sort yourself out, never really getting anywhere. I tried so many different things to try and sort my shoulder out and my neck. My voice had never come back, and it just didn't really happen. So I guess time and space took place. I ended up working in marketing because I didn't really know what else to do, and I was quite good at it, but I didn't like it. I was kind of on the gravy train of commuting, just kind of pursuing one salary after another, moving around, never quite feeling like I'd really sorted myself out. Until one day when basically I was walking up, of all places, the Edgware High Road after I'd been to Sainsbury's with my mother. And I walked past a TCM clinic that you see on the high street where it said 10 minutes of massage for £10. And my shoulder, which was still bothering me, I'd kind of learnt to live with it like so many of us do. I thought, you know what, I'm in so much pain, I'm going to do something about this. If this guy can do anything at all, I don't care, just like help me. So I wandered in and he did this amazing technique called gua sha, where he used a rounded edged implement and press stroked it all over the area, and it was instant relief. And I remember sitting there on the chair. It's one of those chairs where you sort of lean forwards with your head like this. He was working on my back, and I was kind of sobbing with relief and frustration, sort of all at the same time. And I had the first of my epiphany moments that I've had since then, where I thought, right, that's it, I'm going to change my life. I literally walked out of that clinic and thought, that's it. And I dumped my boyfriend. I moved out because we were living together. I moved back to my old flat. I gave up my job, although my dad went bonkers about that, but I did. And I re-qualified as a masseuse. And in those days, it was the beginning of the 20th century. You know, self-care, self-healing, massage therapy, all of these therapies were not really kind of considered to be anything kind of career-worthy. But yet I did it because I loved it and I was passionate. And I often went back to visit this Chinese doctor to talk to him about Chinese medicine, which I then started to study. So a little bit of time went by. I was now a professional therapist. I was doing massage, reflexology. I was doing channeling and psychic healing. And eventually qualified at university to become a Chinese medicine practitioner, which is what I now am. And that then led me finally to have my own clinic, by which time I'd moved down to Somerset and was working from my converted stables in the back garden, which I loved. But then what happened was the next sort of moment came along where I was rather fed up with people coming to see me saying things like, isn't Chinese medicine acupuncture and herbs? And I'm thinking, well, yes, but it's a lot more besides that. Or they'd say, I've tried everything and my friend said, why don't you try acupuncture? Because they're so desperate. Or what would happen is that they would say things like, gosh, as long as I have my weekly treatment with Katie, then I'm okay. But then they can't always have a weekly treatment with me because things get in the way, like school holidays, or you get sick, or you're not around, or then I'm not available. So that the treatment would constantly get sort of like messed up. And I sat there one day just thinking, there must be an easier way. Okay, and all good businesses start with a good idea, and this was my good idea. There must be an easier way of getting this incredible information out there. All this stuff over here that I know is so incredible, and then there's all these people over here that are suffering, and someone's got to start joining up the dots, because these people here don't really understand that this information over here is invaluable to them. And yes, it's Eastern, and yes, it's in Chinese, and yes, sometimes the expressions don't necessarily translate very well, but the content and what it's telling you to do is absolutely correct. And by this point, I'd been studying it for a long time and knew for sure that everything I'd studied had been born true. So I had total faith in what it was that I knew. I just could see that there was a bit of a glitch between what I knew and how to get it to people. And seeing people one-on-one in my clinic under those kinds of circumstances was not getting the message out there as well as it could. So the Hayo'u method was born. Now, of course, this is a YouTube, and this is going to be a kind of shortened version. The reality is at this point now, I've transitioned across from being a therapist to a businesswoman. And the reality is that I was not a businesswoman. I had absolutely no idea how to run a business. At school, I did home economics, not economics. My daughter now in the next generation is doing business studies at school. I had no such opportunity. It wasn't even on the curriculum. And the reality is I didn't have a clue. Now, that has been something that has been very, very difficult, because the reality is that going into business is not easy. And I have learned many, many things the hard way as to how you do things, how you don't do things, how you can't ignore things that you think you don't know. You have to basically understand all the different aspects of running a business. The minute you employ someone, you need to understand tax law, you need to understand HR, you need to understand how to read a balance sheet, you need to understand how to structure a company. All of these things need doing, and you need to understand how to find good people to carry out your idea, because if you don't have good people, it tends to collapse. Now, the good thing is that since I started up the Hayo'u method, which was a few years ago now, business has changed a lot, and there are many more women in business now than there ever have been before. And I'm very, very proud to be one of them, and I'm proud to say so. And one of the things that I will always do, if ever I can, is to support women in business and to give them the benefits of my experience, whether it's good or bad. And I do think actually I have a lot of wisdom to impart on this, because I have made so many mistakes and I've learned the hard way what to do. But the point is that despite all of the issues and the setbacks that have happened that are natural in any business, I was so convicted by the idea of what it was that I wanted to do. I was so inspired by this amazing medical system that I understand and loved so much that I never lost sight of the fact that this brand is all about trying to help people. And that is indeed all I want to do. If I can spend my lifetime getting people to know and understand about the benefits of self-care and Yang Sheng and Chinese medicine, and how indeed to look after yourself so that you don't have to get sick in the first place, then as far as I'm concerned, the business is indeed a success. Now, the other interesting thing to say about my little journey is that aside from the fact that I never imagined in a million years that I would ever run a company, and yet here I am, then in lockdown, things kind of, you also find in life when you're running things is that things don't always go according to plan. So for example, COVID hit, and we went into lockdown, and up I started with practicing the Qigong on a daily basis on social media to help people through the difficult times when we were all in lockdown together. And from that just sort of act of altruism, where I thought, well, look, I've got something that maybe people can benefit from, suddenly emerged this incredible community of people who formed the key community of Katie Brindle. And it's something, again, which I'm enormously proud of, because the business is very much aimed to help people, to give people working through the social media model of a lot of free content, a lot of access to free information, which then trickles down and down and down into a one-to-one clinic, and then ultimately the 2-hour Bar Z readings that I do to really help change people's lives. And I'm really proud of that, because it all just kind of emerged out of what we were all doing. But aside from that, up popped Hayo'uFit. And it was slightly feeling like I'd bitten off more than I could chew, because the reality is I'd never ever in a million years intended to set up a Qigong brand. It wasn't really in my vision. My vision was the 1 minute to self-care, using the amazing tools and products and knowledge and distilling it down so people could get the hang of it. But the reality is that there was a market available right there. And sometimes when you're doing business, you just have to grab it and go, do you know what? It's not perfect. I'm not quite ready for it. We are going to have to stretch to do it, but we're going to have to do it because the desire is there and people need this service, and therefore we need to provide it to them. And again, lots and lots of lessons. The main lesson was that we didn't have the back end set up properly. So whilst the front end was great, the back end wasn't really working as well as it could. But you know what? The other thing that I love about running businesses now is that we're not like businesses in the 20th century where the business is kind of removed from its consumer just because it's kind of here's the product and here's the customer and that's the conversation. That the great thing now using social media is that this conversation is alive. We're talking to each other all the time. I talk to my customers every day, and they're not really my customers, they're just the community. I mean, I talk to these people on a daily basis because they're asking me questions and I'm trying to help them. So what you find is amazing is that because of that high level of interaction, that you actually genuinely know who these people are. You've met them, you've talked to them, you've looked at their charts, you've helped them with their problems, you talk to them on social media, and there is an ongoing dialogue when you see these people when you do the live feeds. So that then meant that as a result, even though the back end was not as good as it should be, it was glitching, it wasn't quite right, people were so much more happy and tolerant of the fact that we needed to sort things out and that we were making some mistakes and that we were fixing it as we went along. And as long as you're humble about that and that you're explaining to people what's going on and you're giving them things back in return, like we'd give everyone a free week's trial or we'd give them a free week on the new platform, people were really lovely about it. And that's what's such an amazing thing about this company is that yes, it's been a bit bumpy along the way, but there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with getting things wrong. But the most important thing is that you learn from your mistakes and that you get other people around you to support you when you come up with a good idea. So, because it's International Women's Day, what are the kind of summary of what I would recommend that people do? What have I done well? What did I do wrong that when I look back retrospectively, I wish I'd known that and that would have made things a lot easier. So I can impart that knowledge to you now. Well, the first thing to say is always start with a good idea. I had a really good idea. It was such a good idea, loads of people have copied it. But that's okay, because I've got more good ideas. I've always got lots of good ideas. It's a strength. So there we go. First thing, start with a good idea. Second, which is the bit that I didn't do, make a really thorough plan and really work out what exactly it is that you're trying to achieve and how much it's going to cost you and what you need. Therefore, bringing in investment. Now, the third thing is if you do need to bring in investment, be very, very careful about what investment you bring in. I've been lucky that I basically sold everything that I ever owned, and therefore I could just about manage to squeak the business over the line so that I didn't have to give up equity to a whole load of investment houses. But the reality is not everyone has the opportunity to do that. So if you're looking for outside investment, be extremely careful about the contract, extremely careful about what they're asking in return, and perhaps if you're a woman, to look at some of these investment houses which are now opening up, which are exclusively female supporting female brands, because there are other women out there that have made money in the past and they've got money to invest, and they tend to give you different investment terms to the traditional male-led investment houses, and that's definitely something to work on. Also, make sure that you're part of like a women supporting women group. I find that there are certain female founders who I won't mention here, but they have been invaluable to me, even if it's just me sobbing down the phone on a Saturday afternoon thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? Even that is helpful. You have other experienced women in their businesses that can help lead you with their expertise. Now, of course, if I can be of any assistance at all, please put your comments underneath here or message me, and I will do everything I possibly can to point you in the right direction. One of the key things to say for women in business is that we have come a long way in the last 100 years in terms of closing the gender gap that is absolutely still nonetheless there. And the reality is over the next 100 years, we are going to close that down entirely and hopefully start really pushing through in a spectacular way. And that's going to be because women, like all of us, are standing up and actually working together in order to support and help one another so that we can make it through. Because it's not easy running a business. It's not. Most businesses fail. 1 in 5 businesses succeed, which is a terribly low number, and something which I know once I've got myself absolutely steady, I would be very, very happy to try and sort, because I can now see from my own experience why things went wrong and why things could have gone under and why things then worked. So the key thing for anyone watching this is to really consider having a group of women around you that can support and nurture and advise you so that you don't make basic mistakes like I did, which can often result in the closing and the dying of your great idea. So I hope you found this YouTube helpful. Do forward this to anyone that you think might benefit from it, and do follow me underneath, and do put a comment if you think that I can help you.